part of me is like, oh, the world's falling apart. I'm like, kill them all. And then I'll get up to go get my ruck. I'm like, will I? Nah. A couple of them might get through.
This thing's heavy.
A couple of them might get through. So, I'm somewhat caffeinated, so if you don't dictate the conversation, dude, I'm going to be everywhere.
What we can expect for 2024, and then is there anything that we can actually do about it? This is why I like talking to you about these things, because you've traveled the world, you've been to a lot of places, you've done, and you've seen way more than I ever have or ever will in my lifetime because of your career. So the reason I like to talk to you about it is because I think you have a lot of insight into these types of things, and I respect your opinions, and I think a lot of people watching will really respect some of the things that you had to say. So what do you think about 2024 coming up? What do we have to expect, and what can we do about it?
One of the things I really got out of my military career was I got a chance to appreciate humans, right? Regardless of race, religion, and all that other stuff. Outside of the bubble in the United States, right? A lot of the country has been divided into two basic psychological factions, the left and the right. I mean, I think we're more closely in the center, but that's another discussion. The folks who typically land on the left suffer from what we call in the Army the good idea theory. It sounds good.
Maggie's chasing my chickens.
It sounds good, but in practice, it has demonstrably brought suffering and misery to the folks that have implemented it. And for that, I don't think you need military experience or world experience. I think you just need to have a commitment to keeping a meaningful open mind. Because a lot of these crazy ideas have got us to 2024, and they are crazy ideas.
Such as?
The idea of immigration that the United States is not adopted. It's been forced on us. Like, at no time has any of this immigration, as the way we see it now, been meaningfully up for debate. It's been meaningfully on the ballot, regardless of your candidate, until very recently. And
as far as wide open borders, just letting anybody and everybody in.
Yeah, every nation deserves sovereignty. Every group has a meaningful identity, a group conscious. It's not an evil thing. It's been portrayed that one group's evil and the other group can do no wrong for so long that here we are with, I think I saw a headline yesterday, like 10,000 people have crossed the border in 24 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, guys, we don't have a border.
10,000 people.
And they are overwhelmingly military-age males.
Yeah.
And Americans in general have been so shamed about their own culture, past, and history that they won't point out the obvious, is that this is an existential threat to your way of life. Like, this isn't a joke. This isn't a drill. Like, this is really happening. And the sooner you can admit that to yourself, the sooner you can start doing something about it. The worst place somebody wants to be is in a reactionary mode, where you're only reacting to the things that are going on around you. And when you're stuck in a reactionary mode, it's almost entirely an emotional reaction, because you don't actually have initiative and control, or you would be proactive and you would demonstrate some initiative. You want to stay ahead of these problems. The longer you put off admitting that the border is a meaningful danger to you and your family and your way of life, and more importantly, your kids, the longer you put that off, the more difficult the response is going to be. Things could be resolved more peacefully in the past, but as time goes on and we achieve critical mass, the more radical the solutions will seem to be. But ignoring the problem is only going to make it worse. The women and children that are coming across the border, by and large, they're smuggled. I mean, I'm sure there's some in there. I mean, mathematically, there has to be some that are legitimately trying to migrate.
Yeah.
That in their legitimate motivation is to migrate, though they're doing it criminally.
Sure.
Right. The overwhelming majority of the people coming across the border are colonizers. They're here to colonize. They're here to take. They have they place no value on your way of life and show zero gratitude for your country and your borders and your nation. And there's a large group of the American population that wants to reward that. Okay, you're done. See ya. Like,
Which is crazy.
That is insane.
Yeah, literally.
It is literally insane to think that way. Back to me, my experiencing people around the world. It's like only a leftist idiot, a liberal, one of these champagne socialists who have never experienced any real hardship, don't know anybody that has any real hardship, living a life of fabricated problems, think that this is going to be okay. Because they sit around sniffing their own farts.
A life of fabricated problems.
Yeah, they sit around sniffing their own farts, believing the problems that they made up, and most of them are wildly. They're either wildly wealthy.
Yeah.
They are the 1%.
Distractions going on here.
They're either wildly wealthy, and they're if you actually know what the definition of fascism is, if you take 5 minutes to go look at it. Right.
What is the definition of fascism, Joe?
It's basically a blend of corporate power and state power. It's state power being expressed through corporate power.
Okay.
That's my loving way of putting it. But if you really want to go look how Italy in World War II ran, right? Because Nazi Germany was, in fact, a socialist country. Like the BLM, Nazi Germany used race as the dividing oppressed class. And that's all the race hustlers are doing
which
now.
is what's going on right now.
Racial socialism, like, congratulations, you're Nazis.
Yeah.
But the people who are actually wielding power, that corporate oppression that everybody's feeling, where all your options, okay, that's the fascist piece, right? That has nothing to do with the free market. That has nothing to do with economics. That has everything to do with dipshit leftists. The bottom line, they're either extremely wealthy,
Yeah.
and they're aware of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the useless idiots that are dependent on this system, they're dependent. Their income, their way of life, their rent, their food bill, all comes from someone else.
Yeah.
Okay? Their emotional well-being depends on maintaining the status quo at any cost, even if it costs you. They don't care who they hurt. All they care about is somebody going to gimme.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they justify it with these irrational, genocidal, ethnocidal arguments in their mind.
And it just seems so completely made up. Like,
it's entirely made
it's
up.
not real. Like the real world, you go out and you interact with real people. The things that you're seeing and hearing about aren't happening like on a daily basis. Well, I don't mean that there's not crazy stuff happening and people aren't being horrible to one another. What I mean is, like, if you actually go out and interact with people in your community, you realize that people are just people and they just want to do their things and live their lives and get along fairly well. It's the antagonists, the people that are like poking the bear until eventually the bear gets pissed off.
The trap that most folks are in is that you're working 40 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you don't have time to do the research, the litigation, sit down and practice your oral arguments and rhetoric because you're too busy putting food on their table. These people, literally, that's all they do.
Mm-hmm.
Is they spend 40 hours a week practicing rhetoric, litigating their arguments against themselves. They are professional rent seekers. They're professional parasites. When I was down doing construction, we were building low-income housing in LA. And man, that's a whole story on itself. But what I noticed in these ghettos is you would have, it would just be squalor and crime. And you would have these 4- and 5-story tall law offices, palatial, marble, everything nice to the gill, surrounded by an ocean of squalor and poverty. And the lines would be all the way around the corner of people, and that's just what they do all day, is file. That's their job, is to work the system. Mm-hmm. You can't compete against that. And these people don't care. Like they just don't care that they're taking from someone else. And there's a difference between welfare and charity. Welfare is theft. It comes at the end of a gun, okay? And there's no accountability and there's no responsibility. I have zero sympathy for welfare, right? Charity, on the other hand, there's a communal bond there. There's accountability. We know when Johnny's using it to buy meth and when Johnny's using it to do what we expected him to do, right?
Rather
We
than
know
buying
that.
groceries. Yeah.
Well, charity used to be the primary means for supporting the poor, but it was replaced with welfare as part of the Great New Deal and all the other stuff. Like, we put charity out of business, okay? But it comes at the end of a gun. Somebody somewhere is in prison right now because they failed to pay the IRS pick amount of money so that somebody from somewhere else can get a free ticket. Sorry, I'm not saying people shouldn't help them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying you've chosen the least efficacious way to do it. You used a gun,
Yeah.
right? So I don't sympathize with it.
So I think what I'm not alone in this is that, you know, I'm living my life. I've got a family. I've got property here. I'm trying to do all the right things, trying to do all the stuff. What do you think, as far as the next year that's coming up? How do you think it's going to affect my life here? Real life right here. How's it going to affect me?
Well, immigration is the ticking time bomb. Demographics are destiny. Bottom line is, if you're on the left, you're allowed to say this openly. If you're on the right, you're just a racist and a supremacist. So they're going to call you a racist or supremacist no matter what. So you might as well advocate for what's right.
Yeah.
Right? Conspiracy theory hat on, I would think that most of these military-age males coming across the border are going to be the rioters wearing Trump hats coming up soon. Or they're going to be the rioters, or Hamas rioters. They're here, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Do the math. 10,000 divided by 50. There's at least that many in your state.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they're congregating in welfare distribution centers, and that would probably be like major cities, with the intent of, when the system collapses, to push them out to the rural areas. You know?
Do you foresee a system collapse?
It's very likely. I think what's happened is the bad guys are busted. They're busted. All the pedophiles, the crooks, the politicians who have been, the treasonous politicians who have been selling us out for years, they're busted, right? And they're going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
And they have no way out of this except to destroy everything.
Just to break it all.
Burn it down.
Yeah.
Because in the absence of burning it down, the traitors are going to get hung.
Yeah.
Right? The pedophiles are going to get the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's coming. I think the good guys are going to win, don't get me wrong. But I think they're going to try to burn it down.
Yeah. I you know, and look at historical events and wars and civil wars and things like that. You know, I'm curious about what's in our future, because, you know, look at the American Civil War. You know, everybody, we had blues versus grays, right? North versus south. Like, what's that going to look like for us if that is in our future? We're not going to put on gray uniforms and they're going to put on blue uniforms and then we'll go toe to toe.
No, that's Napoleonic War.
Right. What's it going to look like for us?
It's going to be factional, and it's going to, on a surface, it's probably going to appear, you know, like there's some degree of balkanization going on. But I think it's going to.
When you say balkanization, you mean splitting up of the country into
racial, ethnic,
Yeah.
religious, geopolitical, and not just not geographic. Like, look, there's still a lot of ways out of this. They're not pretty. They're just not pretty answers to the modern American stomach. But there's still a lot of ways to preserve peace. I think states redrawing state lines.
Really?
Absolutely. Look at
You think that's
Washington
gonna
and
happen?
Oregon. I think there's moves to do it right now. Washington and Oregon.
But do you think it's
in Idaho?
Oh yeah, I mean, I get there's moves to do. There's moves to do a lot of stuff. Like, everybody talks about a bunch of things, and they all say they're going to do this, and this president says they're going to do that. And
Look, you either do it.
yeah,
Like, you either do it, and I don't care. This is up to the American people. You either start doing these things that allow people to live peacefully and live in their communities by themselves, or you put them up against the wall.
yeah,
And if you put an armed population up against the wall, they're going to shoot back. If you put an unarmed population against the wall, they're going to take those bullets. They're going to be executed. But there's no end state to tyranny other than you support our regime or you're out.
Right.
So either the American people find the will to kick out all the criminals, right? Because they're not immigrants, they're colonizers, right? They're here to exploit this nation economically.
They're not here to become Americans and adopt our
no,
our way of life.
and listen, there's some rationale to that. It's like I don't think that is inherently a morally evil thing. It's at the end of the day, I think if you ask most of these people if they want to be American citizens, they're going to tell you no. Some do, but the overwhelming majority are just here to economically exploit the circumstances, and then they're going to go home.
Yeah.
And that's how most of immigration's been. Most people want to come, work for a little while, get a few dollars, and they want to go home.
Yeah.
Some want to stay, but just as many want to go home. It's ridiculous to think that all these immigrants are this monolithic intellectual, they all want the same thing. They don't.
Yeah.
Some do, some don't. But they've made such a mess of things that even the specter of legal immigration, there needs to be a moratorium on it, because that's just as jacked up as the illegal system.
Yeah.
People just come over on student visas and they stay.
Yeah.
Right? They take advantage of these generous benefits while they're here,
Yeah.
and then they stay on these expired visas. It's like, I'm not against immigration. It's just you've destroyed the mechanism, right? If you have a sewage backup in your house, you don't just keep flushing the toilet. You're going to have to turn it off and clean the mess up
Eventually.
before, right?
Yeah.
It's the same way. We have with the sewage.
It's a good analogy, Joe.
Well, people
good
are going to
analogy.
call me a racist. Oh, you're calling them sewage. No, I don't care. These people that are coming across the border do not care about us, our way of life, our values. They don't care about anything that you've worked for. They think you're here for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is get up at 5 or 6 in the morning and go to any of these gas stations, and you'll see where the great replacement theory in effect.
Yeah.
Right? It's preposterous to just, it's not preposterous. It's suicidal to ignore this happening to your country. And it has, everything's so racially charged. Automatically, people are going to go to people of color versus non-people of color, which are completely fucking made up words. All right, to confuse the circumstances, the left is openly arguing for segregation and what is effectively amounts to Jim Crow laws for whites. Okay, and half of the white community is too pussified to say or do anything about it, and they're just going to take it. And then the other half is going to be righteously indignant, because we understand that it wasn't good when whites were doing it. It's not good when non-whites are doing it. It's not good.
It's just not good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's not. It never benefits anyone.
But these illegal immigrants got to go, and we don't need to be rewarding them with citizenship. That's crap. That is a complete misinterpretation.
How about this? What about the this probably strikes a chord with you for sure. What about enlisting them in the military?
It's retarded. So what is the obvious play here by the left was to disenfranchise the citizenry that volunteer for the military. They disenfranchise them. They have put from General Milley on down, and they've been doing this for years, these toxic, woke, liberal leaders up higher and higher up the food chain in the military. And then an absolute betrayal of the soldiers, okay, when they started pushing this vaccine mandate out. And if you disagree with that, remember, they apologized, said they were wrong. So every leader that did that, you stabbed your soldiers in the back. You did no due diligence, right? Zero. You're a volunteer, not a slave, okay? They were completely disrespected by the military, and a lot of them were kicked out. And I think that's by design, because you're not going to get the 82nd of 20 years ago and the 101st of 20 years ago to act against the American people, because that's their neighbors and that's their hometown.
Right.
But you fill the army up with 30, 40, 50, 60,000 illegal immigrants who are trained to hate you by mainstream media.
Yeah.
Okay, they will have no problem
Just doing
No
the
problem.
will of what?
doing the will of whoever's in there.
Yeah.
That was the play. They made it. It isn't going to work. Dick Durbin came out and tried to push it. And immediately everybody's like, ha ha.
That's
I
a
see what you
terrible
did
idea.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good try.
You're a racist if you try to shut
Yeah.
up. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not racist. He's like,
yeah. That doesn't make any sense.
everything's racist. You
Yeah.
know, it's like the stove's racist. It's like,
You know what?
just-
I was thinking about
the word
that.
has no
I
meaning.
was thinking about that earlier, how the stove is racist.
Yeah.
Now that it's starting to change color.
Oh, yeah. It's like
It's a transitional.
They've overused the word so much because, you know, a few years ago it worked because it did stimulate a core disgust for a value that we don't hold,
Yeah.
right? That's why it worked. Calling people who aren't racist is an easy way to stimulate them emotionally because it is something that they are disgusted by. Like, the overwhelming majority of Americans they just aren't racist by the actual, not the left modern definition where if you're white you're racist because you were born that
Just because.
yeah, just because. But like the actual, I think you are less than me because you are another color. That's coming from them, right? And they've overplayed their hand with racism and misogyny and all these crap buzzwords because it stimulated that emotional response from liberal women and beta males on the left, and it worked. But at some point, it just stops working.
So, do you anticipate there just being? What do you anticipate? I feel like there's conflict coming. You know, there's going to be. I guess I don't know how you describe it. What is the conflict going to look like? I guess is my question for you. How is it going to start? It's already started, but how is it going to evolve in the next year?
It's pretty obvious that what they want is a civil war.
Yeah.
Like,
do you think that's a legitimate possibility in the next year?
Possibility, and everybody needs to come to terms
Like
with
when
it.
you say civil war, you mean
Groups of
bullets
American
firing
fighting,
towards one another.
yeah.
Okay, not words,
Kinetic
not
force.
yeah, like actual fighting.
Like, wrap your brain around it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, nobody wants that except the left.
Mm-hmm.
The left, they will never admit this, and that's the beauty of their system. As long as you lie, project, and deny, you can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the right, or excuse me, not the right, the old school GOP, as some people have called the Queen's loyal opposition, right? Won't say what needs to be said, and that's, you've been given a choice as an American, especially if you're of European descent, but this certainly applies to any other racial group that's pro-Constitution, pro-America. Like, we're all in this together. I do believe that. But you've been given a choice. You can submit slowly and painfully to the chains of socialism, in which case you're all going to suffer, or you can fight back. I think there is a third option, but that's going to require some politicians with some real chutzpah to get out there and start saying things.
Do they exist?
I think they're showing their face. Like, some things had to happen since the 2020 election, and these things have happened. Sadly, we live in a world where if a man says something, it doesn't have any weight until a woman says it, because they have been selected as a victim group, and victim groups are privileged groups in the United States. That's, sorry. If a white guy says something, it's immediately shunned as racist. But if a person of color says the same thing, it's
Exactly
like, okay.
the same words. Yeah.
Then they start calling them all these names like Uncle Tom's and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they can say some of the things that other folks can't say. And I think what's happened is the Overton window has changed, and enough things have happened.
What's the Overton window?
Things that are okay to discuss.
Okay.
If you're outside the Overton window, you don't even have to be labeled as radical. It'll just be assumed to be radical. You know, there's a narrow range of topics that you're allowed to freely discuss. You just can't go outside of these, right? And the Overton window shifts left to right, you know, whatever. It'll expand, it'll shrink.
Yeah.
Ideally, with free speech, we want it to be as wide as possible.
Sure.
The socialists want it to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
And the more narrow these walls get, the more amped up and violent everybody starts to get. All right, anyway. Like, the Great Replacement theory is now something that can be discussed in public because potential politicians have come out and said it. Certain things have come out and said in the public sphere that would have easily be struck down as racist and all this other stuff in the past because back then it worked. Now when these things are coming up and you call them racist, it doesn't evoke the reaction. Instead, it evokes curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, America, you know, I'm surprised at just how fast we threw people like Martin Luther King under the bus. Like, thrown them under the bus. It's like, by and large, most folks in my generation, I would say, like, okay, cool, we dig the dude, we agree with what he's saying, and then that means if that's a psychology that is loose in America, we're good with it, right? But boy, they just threw him under the bus in the last few years. Anything and everything to stoke racial hate towards, you know, like especially the white population. At this point, you're just a dimwit if you don't think that's happening. I think you're dumb.
Just tell us.
Like,
No, Joe, don't sugarcoat it. Tell me how you really feel.
I think you're a low IQ or a liar if you can't cop to the overt effort at implementing institutional racism against whites.
Yeah. I think your stove went out.
Yeah, at this point, it's fine. I'm going to let it cool off.
Gotcha.
But now you superimpose the magnitude of this discussion with an influx of military-age males who are coming from places like communist Venezuela and just all these shitholes. They weren't shitholes; they've become shitholes. Okay. I got it. They want to escape their circumstances, duly noted. But I don't think that's who's coming across. I think in some cases you're actually getting military organizations. I think all they did in some cases is, all right, Alpha Company, 1st of the 502nd, you know, Venezuelan infantry. Take off your uniform, put on your clothes, walk across the
You think
border.
that happened?
Sure, why not?
I mean,
Because if the motivations of this mass immigration are legit, then there would be a way huge blend of families, you know, women and children and actual vulnerable people. But instead, it's all military-age males. The predominant. Go look at any news clip.
Sure.
They all try to pan in on the one or two females and women, maybe. But then if you look behind them, there's just a line of 1,000 males coming across. It's males coming across.
Yeah.
And I would add to that, something I saw when I was overseas was that the only television programming most of these countries get are shows and venues that portray the worst aspects of America. Like when I was in Iraq, you could only get crap like Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
That's all
the
they knew.
Kardashians.
That's the thing. They think we're a bunch of racists.
Yeah.
Angry, hateful, subhuman,
Yeah.
inbred, you know, pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Because that's literally all they're
see.
told.
Mm-hmm.
And the mainstream media supports this with their narrative. The mainstream media have absolutely betrayed this country.
Mm-hmm.
There was a movie a few years back with Nick Nolte where he portrayed a Nazi broadcaster, but he was secretly, you know, a British agent. And one of the reasons he got away with doing what he was doing for so long is because even if he was a double agent, he had done so much damage to the other side and helped the Nazis so much that it really didn't matter if he was a double agent at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And I forget what it is, but Nick Nolte's in it. It's a good movie. You should watch it.
Okay.
But that's our mainstream media today. You know, they're compromised. They're sowing the seeds of hate and dissent. They're spreading open lies. You know, there's nothing salvageable about corporate media.
Yeah. I haven't watched it in so long. It's just garbage.
Well, I don't even know that. It's just they've betrayed the people. They've betrayed their own people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these useful idiots got to realize too. Let's say if our country's conquered, the conquerors, when they come in, the first people they're going to put up against the wall and execute are you, the useful idiots, the traitors. Because if you betrayed your own people, for sure you're going to betray their people.
Right.
You're the
You're
first
not
to go.
trustworthy enough to
They
keep
need
around.
me and you as slaves to go work the fields and dig shit out of their, out of their trenches.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not going to, they may kill us in time, but they need to get work out of us.
Sure.
Okay? So they're going to put us out in the fields planting beets and potatoes and shit, right? But all these useful liberals, like, especially the entertainers, like Hollywood and these musicians that have just absolutely sold their souls to the devil. When the Mongol horde comes in, you're the first they're going to kill.
Yeah.
Off.
Well, who's that? Okay, so who's taking us over? So, like, okay, you look at historical events where one nation has come in and conquered another nation, and now that nation is under the control, the rule of somebody else. Who are we pointing our finger at, saying this is who's taking us over?
What it is it's a legitimate cartel by definition. So, a cartel isn't just this one drug dealer and his empire. Yes, that's what you see of a cartel. But a cartel is really the conglomerate of agreed upon interest groups working against the interests of their target group. So let's say all the burger restaurants got together, like McDonald's, Burger King. I'm just, and I don't think they're doing this, but I'm just using that as an example. And they all got together and decided to lower their prices, spend money here, and do this just to, not to fairly compete, but to undermine the competition.
Just eliminate competition.
To eliminate competition, right? You see this with, I suspect, maybe Home Depot, right? Undermining local hardware stores with their prices, and then once they run out all the local business,
They can do whatever they want.
But that's really how cartels work. It's so what you have is, it's been called the cabal, which is a good word because it denotes an evil core. But it's a cartel of hostile influences that the Democrats have willingly sold you to, like cattle. Like corporations who don't have your best interest, drug cartels who don't have your best interest, communist governments who don't have your best interest, Islamo-terrorists who don't have your best interest. There is no hostile group that the Democrats absolutely will not sell you and your information to.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like you. They want you gone. And it's because they can't control you. Mm-hmm. They're pretty confident they can control these illiterate, huddled masses coming across the borders. But they can't control you.
Right.
So you got to go. You are to be replaced. And they're already doing this in a lot of these blue cities where they're allowing illegals to vote. It's like,
that's crazy to me.
That's slavery. They're telling you that what they've done is you have a hostile organization in control of your local government, and they're subordinating you to an external force. They are traitors.
Yeah.
They are traitors. If your politician is allowing the illegal immigrants to vote, then they're saying that Hezbollah can vote for you, the Hamas can vote for you, the CCP can vote for you.
Yeah.
And you're too stupid, right, to call them out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's stupid.
Yeah.
Or weak.
Yeah.
Neither of them is good.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen in 2024? I think the potential of all hell breaking loose.
You think that's? I mean, honestly,
The potential.
It feels like more and more, like as time goes on. I mean, in years past, I've been skeptical of some sort of mass chaos going on in our country, of it actually really happening, as far as like on a grand scheme, localized for sure, but on a grand scheme, I've been hesitant to say that that's going to happen. But now, it just seems like it's heading more and more towards that.
Yeah, so the Civil War is going to be like in that movie that's coming out. That's all Hollywood propaganda.
I haven't seen it yet, but yeah.
It's going to be Democrat-backed foreign fighters against what's left of the American population. Because what's left of the American population won't be exclusively white. There'll be plenty of blacks and Hispanics and Asians that are like, hey, man, well, this system is rock solid.
Yeah.
Like, I'll fight for this.
Yeah.
Right? And this has been demonstrated throughout history, that this is not, despite, maybe, look, some of the European countries do have an ethnic undertone to it. And if the U.S. ever did, who cares? Because we're at a point now where there's plenty of folks who understand that, hey, look, the Constitution is awesome. And it's what gives you that awesome way of life that you want. You know, it's a meritocracy.
Okay.
And there's plenty of folks who will fight for the U.S. So when I say the Civil War will be foreign fighters, it's going to be these immigrant males.
All of these
With Democrats, with political
20
support
to
from the
40-year-old
Democrats.
males coming across the border that have no ties to America.
No love for America. Go
Just-
look what's happening
What
in
do
Europe.
they? What do they have to gain from?
Conquest. Welcome to the real world. Conquest is conquest.
Yeah.
A conquered people will be enslaved. Your way of life will be outlawed. They will do what they want. You look at what's happening in Europe, and what's happening in Europe is an absolute tragedy.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy. Rape gangs, you know, open violence, open revolts, open calls for jihad and revolution and overthrow, openly. Okay, backed by their version of progressive. It's the same World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, you know, commie, you know, psychopaths. I think they were hoping to quietly do it to the U, because once we go, it all goes. We're it.
Yeah.
So I think they were hoping to quietly do it to the U.S. You know, Canada's gone. Until that government changes, like it is a communist government openly persecuting and pursuing its citizens at the behest of the immigrants that are coming in. And that's what they want for the U.S.
More importantly than what you anticipate happening is what can we do about it?
Well, I would say for the next year, get up on your combat skills. Like, stop blowing it off. You best bet if all those gangs up in Chicago with their fully automatic weapons, because that's what they have. I can't tell you how many videos I see of gangbangers looking at their full auto Glock switches and stuff. But you best bet that those military-age males that are coming across the borders will absolutely take advantage of your Second Amendment right. They will have guns, and they will go take classes, and they will be armed. So at the very least, you need to learn how to shoot, right? And your most likely contact with violence will come in the form of political persecution. So outside of your tactical skills, I would tell you to prison-proof your combat skills. Learn how to roll, learn how to fight, learn how to defend yourself in a jail setting, because in the absence of a civil war and in the absence of a true victory of the constitutional republic, that's your most likely upfront encounter with political violence or some type of ridiculous general warrant. They're already trying to get every gun owner using the ATF forms. They're trying to use it as gun registries. You know, eventually they'll put out a fatwa to turn your weapons in, or else. And they won't come door to door. There'll just be a warrant out, and the next time you get a speeding ticket, they'll just arrest you. And then they'll come sack your house. Right? Don't expect up front in your face violence from the political hostility. They're going to use the political system and their underlings to do violence against you, right? It's going to be the corrupt FBI, the corrupt ATF, these corrupt federal agencies that have no constitutional basis. You're going to be targeted by the IRS. That's why they hired all these people. Okay, this is in the absence of a civil war. So the best thing you can do to protect yourself is learn how to shoot in case there's some type of open Hamas-style hostility. And then to back that up, I would learn how to defend yourself in a jail situation, because if the good guys don't win in 2024, you'll probably be jailed and sent to camps. You know, they tell you they want to do this.
Yeah.
Right, none of this is my idea. This is all coming straight from their mouth. You know, imagine COVID if there was no Trump in the future. Like we would all be in camps, being re-educated, like they're trying to do to Georgia. What's his name? Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Look at what they're doing to Alex Jones, and is it something like $1 trillion settlement? It's retarded.
Yeah.
It's a message. Same thing that Atlanta did with Rudy Giuliani with a $148 million settlement. It's ridiculous. It's like we all saw you do it right? It's not defamation to point out that's you on the video,
Yeah.
right? So they're coming. It will be Stasi style. They're already doing it now. Look at how they're rounding up January 6th political prisoners. They're just going to expand it and expand it and expand it. And if you ever texted somebody who was on a watch list, you're on a watch list.
Yeah.
Because you're in the digital age, you're already guilty. You're already guilty of thought crime. The only question is when do they get down the list far enough to knock on your door?
Mm-hmm.
So if I were you, I would vote correctly. Yeah, you can be an idiot. You can be an idiot and vote, and I hate that. That's why I think democracy is just pure garbage. You know, I don't think the blue-haired moron with a nose ring who's overweight, you know, miserable. I don't think that we are on par, right? I don't. And I don't support a system that's going to allow a group of self-declared victims to overrule the productive class of any society, right? Like that's pure communism. But vote for Trump. Don't be a dumbass. Like, don't be a dumbass. If it is that,
Do you think your vote matters?
it can. I think the strategy right now is pretty obvious. Is that we have to have enough of a lead in the general election going into 2024 that they would call it a cheat-proof lead.
A cheat-proof lead.
Yeah.
You got to be so far ahead.
And I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I think the good guys, I think, are far. I think the good guys are doing things. Like some of these court rulings, they sound bad when they start, but they're going to make their way to the Supreme Court. Like how Colorado Supreme Court just up and said Trump can't be on. It's like, guys.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It's like, you're dumb.
Yeah.
You are dumb. You
saw
are
that today.
a dumb voter.
Yeah.
You are not a citizen. You are a civilian. Civilians shouldn't be allowed to vote. I'm all about Starship Troopers, right? Citizens. So dumb voters will be like, yeah, screw Trump. I don't like the way he tweets.
Yeah.
You're an idiot.
Yeah.
I think you are absolutely low IQ, low testosterone, low value, no value.
Yeah.
If the premise of your well-being in the world and your nation state is based off somebody's language, like, I can't help you. You're just too weak. You should. No, I'm not gonna say because people think I'm threatening, but you know, thanks to modern technology, you survived. You wouldn't have survived 100 years ago. No murder required.
Yeah.
You would have just died of your own imbecility.
You'd have starved to death.
Yeah. Stop putting warnings on toasters.
Oh, get
and
this.
Hair dryers.
Get this. On this note, I was coming out of church. We went to a big, huge mega church down in Atlanta the other day, and as we were coming out of it, there was a sidewalk that I guess was under construction, and the sidewalk ended, and there was a huge sign at the end of the sidewalk, and it said, "Sidewalk ends." So, I was like, you're telling me that somebody was required to put this sign at the end of this sidewalk? Those are the type of people that you're talking about that fall off of there and sue the state or whatever.
Well, that's the thing. You know, lawyers are the root of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they're just all lawyers. Like, I just cannot understand how we've gotten to this point where you're not allowed to have an opinion about a law or a constitutional right unless you're a lawyer.
Yeah.
That's retarded. Screw the lawyers.
Yeah.
Right? Lawyers are the gatekeepers of our judicial system. They're turds. There are some good lawyers out there.
They're turds.
But by and large, you know, they're just warriors of the academic class. They're just bureaucratic soldiers, you know, trained at the same woke institutions as anyone else. Yeah.
Is there a silver lining?
Yeah.
What's the silver lining?
Is that the evil is exposed for what it is. And you're either for evil or you're for righteousness and good. That's it. And chips fall where they may, right? I am comfortable knowing that these people who espouse these virtues, the morality police, I'm comfortable in the idea that they're openly supporting genocide and ethicide and pedophilia on their side. I think they're just as as terrible as the people they're covering for. All right, you're in on it. You're an accomplice to the crime, and that is just the reality of it. This isn't hate that's coming out of me. All right, if anything, I would describe the way the system makes me feel is disgust. I am disgusted at just how far things have gotten. I understand how we got here. A lot of people have been lied to. A lot of people have been tricked. A lot of people just have no moral backbone and were bribed into this situation, now blackmailed. Herpes has a higher approval rating than Congress. I get it. I know how we got here. But this is a great chance for the everyday American, regardless of your religion and your race, to sit back and be like, hey, look, these guys are truly evil. Stop voting for the lesser of two evils. Like, evil is still evil. Like, it's how we got here is such a mess. But our country's in shambles, man.
Yeah.
I think we can come out. I think if there's 100 million of us, just triage. Of the 100 million who know what's going on, 150 million, 40 or 50 of them are too weak to say or do anything about it, so just cut them off as sheep. I think we're at a point now where it's like, I'm not trying to convince you. I don't care if you believe it. That's your problem, not mine. It's like, I'm not trying to convince anybody at this point. You are either intelligent enough and assertive enough and masculine enough to do something about it and to speak about it truthfully without all these caveats. Like, well, I don't mean to screw your caveats, right? Or you're not. And you want to call me a racist, a white supremacist, or any of this? I don't care. The word means nothing.
Yeah.
It just means nothing.
Yep.
So what I am concerned about are my children and the future that they'll inherit. My grandchildren, right?
Of course.
That's what I care about. I don't care about
Because what happens now will affect our kids' lives.
what some city dweller thinks.
Yeah.
Go rot in your cities.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted. Shut up. You made your bed, now lay in. But as far as those who recognize there's something going on, it's like you need to man up or shut up. That's it. Have truthful conversations with the men in your lives. Like, this is evil. These are pedophiles who are trying to push this pornography into school. Like, they're evil. They should be addressed as such. Right? No tolerance. Stop being tolerant.
Yeah.
Like, you're not being a good Christian tolerating
Sure.
evil. You're not. Like, you're just not. Yeah, man, I don't know. I think folks need to start having real conversations and find out who's weak, who's strong. Because at the end of the day, our greatest power is just no. Look, I don't have to fight you.
Just say no.
You pass a law, like if Allah himself comes down and sprinkles pixie dust on it, I'm not obeying it.
Yeah.
Like, the answer is no.
Yeah.
And just like with COVID, if enough folks realize that they're not alone, the more strength and courage they'll have to also resist.
I've
terror.
definitely noticed that. Like you talking about the Overton window, I definitely have noticed over the past year of before people wouldn't say anything. You only heard one side. You only heard one side blabbing on about whatever nonsense that you didn't approve of. You know, you were on.
You didn't vote on.
Yeah, whatever.
You had no say-so in.
Yeah, and then now you see it changing where people are openly discussing the other side of the story. You know.
Yeah. Look, this
People
isn't
are brave enough because they see others doing it. People are brave enough to do it.
This isn't hopeless.
Yeah.
Like, there's gonna be some form of, hey, look, and I'm just gonna use the word reconquista, right? You know, you get a fucking history book. Get a history book. If it has to do with Christianity in Europe in the past, it's almost entirely poo-pooed on by people who hate Christianity in Europe. You know, the Reconquista didn't come out of nowhere, right? Our understanding of the Spanish Inquisition is what brought us to our current understanding of judge, jury, standards of evidence, you know. I saw something the other day. More people have died in the Hamas bombings by Israel in the last couple months than died in the entirety of the Spanish Inquisition.
Wow.
Get over it.
Wow.
Right? Christianity doesn't suck.
Yeah.
You know, people forget that Spain was conquered by Islam for 600 years and had to endure ISIS-like conditions. It's like the myth of the Andalusian Empire, right? And if anything, in the Inquisition and all these things that are attributed to Christianity as cruelty, that has nothing to do with Christianity. In fact, the clergy were the voices of reason begging for leniency, and it was the states that were executing and doing all the horrendous stuff. It wasn't the clergy.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Islamic piracy happened, Islamic slavery happened. Just folks need to get some history books.
Yeah.
They need to get them quick, because they're giving up on a civilization and a culture that absolutely brought light to darkness, brought technology and life-saving knowledge to third world shitholes.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a country in existence today that's a former colony that doesn't have 10 times the GDP of its neighbor that wasn't a colony. So while we may not approve...
Say that again. What did you just say?
All the former nations that were colonies of a Western power have 10 times the GDP of their neighbors that weren't.
Wow.
Right? Now, we can apply today's moral and ethical standards like idiots to yesterday's moral and ethical standards. That's what the left does.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, you know, 1,000 years ago, it was normal to chop people's heads off.
Yeah.
Like, we don't do that now.
It's becoming a trend again in some places.
Well, it's because the left is bringing back, is regressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's, you know, all kidding aside, it's not good.
Yeah.
So, read your history. Christianity's awesome. It's worth saving. All right, it's worth saving. The United States is awesome. It's worth saving. You know, European history isn't evil. You know, white people, it's okay to be white.
Yeah.
Right? We make good neighbors. We do.
We mow our lawns.
Yeah, man. We're good neighbors. The overwhelming majority of whites in this country don't actually give a shit what color you are.
Yeah.
Like, some folks want them to, they just don't. The same thing, like, my opinion on, like, people being gay is, it's like, most folks don't care. You want them to. You want special treatment for it. But we don't care that you're gay, and that's what's making you mad. You're not special.
Yeah.
There's actually a couple gay dudes that intellectually I really admire, like Douglas Murray. It hardly even comes up that he's gay. The only time you really hear that he's gay is in response to some retarded liberal accusing him of homophobia, and he's like, dude, I'm gay.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You're an idiot.
Yeah. Because it has nothing to do with the argument.
We're not talking about that right now.
Yeah. So you know, I kind of use him as an example because I do meaningfully respect this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no need to judge him on what he does.
Mm-hmm.
That's all progressive hippie.
I don't condone the behavior, and I don't think I'm not going to go and encourage my kids to do such.
No,
things.
exactly.
But,
Yeah.
But I respect people's choices to make their own decisions in their lives and do what they.
Well, I think they represent a fraction of the overall population.
Yeah.
And I think it's possible for me to give them grace and forgive them for they know not what they do, if that's what it comes down to, without compromising my morals and values. But, you know, I don't force camping on city kids. Mm-hmm. It really does come down to that. It's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
You don't want to go hunting? I don't care.
Yeah, it's fine.
Right? But that's almost what I would equate it to.
Interesting.
It's like the LGBTQ guys are making hunting mandatory for a bunch of city kids who want to sit on computers. It's like, no, we don't hate it.
Yeah.
We literally aren't into that.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Anyway.
I just don't want to see it.
Yeah. I think some of the folks who are coming into this country that are newcomers to America would be making a mistake to pick the side that hates us. You know, it's like Western nations give, at this point, it's probably up in the trillions in foreign aid, and again, and it goes back to welfare. They've likely done it under the gun. But even out of charitable contributions, there's a whole industry around it. God, what's this book? Of all people, Graham Hancock. One of the reasons why his modern theories and stuff have got some punch to it is because he's a journalist. Prior to him, you know, kind of promoting some of these alternative theories, he wrote a book back in the 80s. God, I can't remember what it's called. Exposing the humanitarian industry for what it is. All right, the aid industry, the foreign aid industry. And he got a lot of kudos for that. So he brought that level of journalistic integrity to his research, and that's why he's not just some crackpot theory on the internet. Like, the dude's a legitimate researcher. But in this book, he exposes just, you know, how corrupt the foreign aid and humanitarian stuff is. And this is the difference between charity and welfare. But even understanding that, the West, Europe, the United States, Americans, Canadians, Australians, all of them are wildly generous, wildly welcoming.
Right.
Right?
More than any other. Yeah, by far.
So
Yeah.
they've exploited this, and they've taken advantage of this, and they've weaponized it against us.
Yeah.
They've weaponized our values against us.
Right.
So you don't have to have an articulate comeback, a witty comeback to argue. Just say no.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you're a racist. Well, I disagree.
Okay.
In the discussion. Like, I don't have to list off all these black guys I like.
Well,
to prove
actually,
I'm not a
I have
racist.
a black friend.
Yeah. Like, I don't owe you an explanation. Right? Well, you just hate gays. It's like, well, I don't have to sit around and list off, you know, give you a laundry list of all the ways. It's like, well, I disagree. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
It's like I said, our greatest power is no, right? It's no.
Yeah.
And taxation is theft anyway.
Yeah. And taxation is bad.
It is. After all the money we're giving Israel, after all the money we're trying to give Ukraine, it's like, why does that Middle Eastern war get aircraft carriers, billions of dollars, and our borders wide open? It's because screw you. That's why.
Yeah. It's right in your face.
It screw you.
Mhm.
That is exactly why. They don't give a shit about you.
Yeah.
If I lived in Lahaina, in Hawaii right now, I would absolutely be pissed off and
Oh my
disgusted
gosh.
with anything and everything U.S. government.
Yeah.
Just throwing it in their face.
Yeah.
Just
You
know,
get nothing.
corruption and malfeasance. What you can do, like I said,
Do what's
learn
right.
to shoot,
Yeah.
learn to fight,
And I would add to that, just do the right thing.
Tell
Every
the-
chance you get.
tell the truth.
Tell the truth, do the right things. Regardless of how painful it might be.
That is what healthy masculinity is.
Mm-hmm.
It's telling the truth,
No matter what.
no matter what.
Yeah.
And look, we all make mistakes, but like Andrew Tate got popular because he pointed out some very obvious, truthful things that people didn't like to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not agreeing with his solutions,
Sure.
but some of the stuff he says is
Yeah, I'm
Not
not agreeing
wrong.
with his douchebaggery.
right.
But
He's not wrong about some stuff.
sure. He's got some point.
Get a group of men, good men, strong men, the type of men that make you want to be a better man.
Sure.
Let nature take its course. Like, men will find a way. Like, I don't have to give a plan to this group of good men in this neighborhood. They're good men.
Mm-hmm.
They will get it done. And that's the beauty of just telling the truth, is that other good men will respond to, holy shit, yeah, he's right. Okay. But at a personal level, learn to shoot and, you know, be able to defend yourself in jail. Those are your two most likely, you know, sources of physical violence being levied against you, is political persecution. If the military age males coming across the border don't get in on this and don't want some, and I think they do, but if that something doesn't happen with all these immigrants coming across, criminal immigrants coming across the border, then your next likely source of friction is going to be political persecution, and if there's something fishy happens with the next election.
Yeah. Which undoubtedly there will be.
Yeah, but I again, having said all that, I'm very white pill, to use the vernacular. I'm very optimistic. Look, we've been kicking the can down the road because it's ugly, and people's feelings are going to get hurt, and things are going to get broken. So the politicians have been kicking it down the road so it doesn't happen on their watch.
Right.
Well, every time you kick it down the road, that snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But at some point, somebody's got to have the balls to just let that thing land and let's just get it over with.
Yeah.
And that's the year we're in.
Yeah.
We've been putting this off for 100 years. Everybody knows who's everybody is. You may not be geographically located next to them, but we all kind of know this company hates us.
Yeah.
This government official hates us.
Yeah.
This doesn't. You kind of know, right? It's out in the open.
It's not north versus south.
And I love that.
Yeah.
It's good versus evil. And the fact that we acknowledge that right now, today, it's good versus evil, buddy, that's a big win for us.
Yeah.
That's a big win.
Yeah.
Because now good men, good families, I believe righteous men will naturally make things right. I don't think it requires a big conspiracy on our part. Just tell the truth.
Yeah.
And make the best possible worst decision.
The best possible worst decision. All right, we'll end it on that. Make the best possible worst decision. That's
Life's
it.
tough.
Life's tough.
Life's tough. Grow a pair.
Yep.
That's it. There's no sugarcoating it these days. I used to get angry at this stuff.
I don't get angry per se. I get frustrated because it doesn't make sense because I'm just, I'm that group of people that just wants to be left alone. Like I just want to live my life. I just want to, I just want to take care of my family. I want to have a picnic by the creek here with the kids and go see the movies.
Well, that's
every now and
because
then.
you're a good man.
Yeah, that's what I want, and I don't want to stop anybody else from doing that. I don't want to tell you how to live your life. I don't care.
Like all I want to do is build a sailboat and go sail.
Right?
Like
that sounds awesome.
If you left me alone,
yeah.
If you meaningfully left me alone, you probably wouldn't even know I'm around.
I just want my sailboat. Why are you pushing my buttons?
Like, yeah, man, I want to eat ramen on a sailboat.
That's all. Yeah.
I don't ask for much.
Why are you bothering me?
But you're making that hard.
Why are you telling me I hate somebody
that I've never met? The question is, between the bad guys and the good guys, is the bad guys that say, well, you don't deserve a sailboat. Yeah, I do. Shut up. Yeah, I do. Shut up. I've worked for it.
Yeah.
I've put the time in.
Yeah.
I've learned the skill.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, and if I acquire the resources through honorable means, I deserve to sail.
Get off my dinghy.
Go eat something. Right?
I can't relate to that. I can't relate to going out of my way to make somebody's life miserable. Like I can't relate to forcibly wanting to change the way somebody else lives their life. I don't understand that.
I don't believe their goal is to make somebody miserable. I believe what it is we've enabled and enfranchised parasites. Nobody wants to build a house. Everybody wants to own the house and rent the house. It's called rent-seeking behavior. Nobody wants to grow the crop. They want to be righteously indignant enough for you to give them the crop. That's how most of the world has been. The overwhelming majority of the world and world history has been a battle between two parasites group trying to assert dominance over the other. And then, boom, Christianity hits Europe. And stabilization and great things and divine inspiration becomes this magnificent force for productivity and goodness and knowledge.
Not to say that there weren't some bad eggs thrown into that bunch.
No, I mean to caveat that stuff.
Yeah.
You can't say that. I don't have to caveat that because there's no group that doesn't have that.
Sure. Every
group's got turds.
Yeah.
So I don't have to caveat, well, screw that.
Yeah.
Right? We got to the moon. We brought modern medicine. We brought you penicillin. Modern
Yeah.
surgery, anesthesia, all these things that make your life possible came from Christianity out of Europe. I had nothing to do with it, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Right? But to take Western civilization and flush it down the toilet
Yeah.
for an Xbox, screw you. Yeah, man, I don't. Like I said, I'm not trying to convert the people sitting on the fence. I'm not trying to convince anybody. If going in right now, it's December 2023, going into 2024. You know what's up. Either you have the balls to live your life accordingly, or you don't. If you don't, not interested.
Yeah.
You're a non sequitur. You'll just be another one of the zombies in the field.
Wow.
That's it. Like I said, life's tough. Throw some balls.
I like how eloquent you are, Joe, and how you know, your gentle presentation.
Yeah, gentle hands, Doc. Oh, I'm not the doctor.
Oh, you wanted the doctor. I'm Jason Salyer with Survival Dispatch. As a Survival Dispatch insider, you'll be able to gain the knowledge, the skills, and equipment necessary to protect your family when it really, really matters. They'll provide crucial information on such things as stockpiling food, medical necessities, communication plans. You will receive specific, actionable plans that can deliver proven techniques to help you get home, shelter in place, or bug out safe.